Welcome back to No Huddle, everyone, and welcome to my Week 11 NFL predictions. Let's just get the elephant out of the room. I'm really sorry that this video couldn't come out earlier. Some internet issues just happened, and the original video that I wanted to post didn't come out. So these prediction videos will not include Thursday Night Football, in which the Patriots beat the Jets. I'll talk about that in the review video. But I did predict the Patriots to win. You'll just have to take my word for it. So that is, I guess, a 1-0 start. But I went 8-6 back in Week 10, and now that brings me to 94-55. We got 14 more games to cover in a 15-game slate. I hope we can maybe reach the 105 win mark, but we'll see. I'll have to be pretty perfect. But let's just get started. Starting with Sunday morning, we got the game in Madrid at the Bernabeu. We got the Commanders up against the Miami Dolphins. The Commanders are coming off a loss to the Detroit Lions. Meanwhile, the Dolphins, they had an upset win against the Buffalo Bills. These two teams are both teams are very inconsistent and overall not very good. But I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins. I just think that they're at a higher momentum right now just because the Commanders, their entire roster is on IR or dead. I'm pretty sure Marcus Mariota is going to play. Jaden Daniels should not return at any time this season, in my opinion. And their defense, while also being old, they're also just all injured. And the Miami offense is still very capable of putting up points with Achane and with Tua not making back-breaking mistakes. We saw him make mistakes against Buffalo, and they were still able to win. So I think that's kind of going to repeat itself, and I trust Marcus Mariota a lot less than I trust Josh Allen. The key players, like I said, it is Devon Achane because he can just keep having these great performances in which he has like 150 yards or something like that and minimizes the amount of times that Tua has to throw the ball. Then I think they're going to win with ease because I think they can put up points at will. Meanwhile, if Mariota can just make some plays out of nowhere, can finally connect on one of those hurdles that he's been trying, then maybe the Commanders have a chance. But overall, I see Miami getting it done in Spain. Moving on to the Sunday afternoon slate, we got the Giants hosting the Green Bay Packers. The Packers lost for the second straight time after losing to Philly at home on Monday night. Meanwhile, the Giants, they lost to the Chicago Bears after being up 10 in the fourth quarter. Brian Daboll obviously got fired, so they're going to have an interim head coach, and Jameis Winston is going to start. That level of unpredictability could signal a trap. There's definitely a trap alert for the Packers, but I'm still going to take them to win. Just because I don't see Matt LaFleur's offense being so bad for 3 games in a row. I think that the Philly defense is a lot better than the Giants defense, so I think the Packers are going to have a better time. Jordan Love has to play better. I think Jacobs is going to do better in the running game. And overall, I just don't trust Jameis Winston with all the offensive players being out. I think Jackson Dart added an element with his legs, and I don't think Jameis Winston has that mobility at the age of what? I'm pretty sure he's over 30 now. I don't think he's going to provide that running threat, and overall, I think that the Packers' defense is going to do a really good job and give the Packers' offense a lot more opportunities to win the game. The key players, it is the the Giants' defensive line. Overall, that front seven, having Brian Burns, Thibodeau, Abdul Carter, Dexter Lawrence, all those guys are still so great. They need to force Jordan Love to be under pressure, just like they did just like what the Eagles did, and they also need to stop the run with Josh Jacobs, because if they can replicate what Philly did and just hold the Packers offense to absolutely nothing and make them not do anything, then I think that Jameis Winston can actually put up a couple of points and be able to win. But if Jordan Love, who is my key player for the Packers, if he plays like how he did in Week 2 and Week 1 and 3 weeks ago against the Steelers, then the Packers offense is going to be firing on all cylinders. I think more of the latter is going to happen, and I think that Green Bay snaps their 2-game skid. Now we got the Texans visiting the Tennessee Titans. The Texans are coming off a comeback win against Jacksonville. Meanwhile, the Titans, they were on the bye, but the last time we saw them, they got kind of dominated against the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm going to try and keep this brief. I think Houston's going to win this one. I don't really have much to say. I think Cam Ward, he's coming off a bye, but I think he's going to turn the ball over against a really good Texans defense. Even if Davis Mills or C.J. Stroud plays, I just don't see Tennessee winning this one just because the defense is way too good for Cam Ward to overmatch. Mind you, they played earlier this year, and they got completely shut out. So I'm probably nothing else to say there. Key players, it is the Texans defense versus Cam Ward. Because if we see him coming out of the bye and he doesn't throw a lot of interceptions and he start pinging passes left and right, absolute dimes, he turns over a new leaf, then who knows? Maybe we have a new look Titans team. But overall, I don't think that's going to happen. And I think the Texans defense is going to ride on the momentum of last week. And I believe this would put Houston back to 500. Now we got an NFC South matchup between the Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons. The Panthers are coming off a really disappointing loss to the New Orleans Saints. Meanwhile, the Falcons, they traveled all the way to Germany, in which they lost to overtime to the Indianapolis Colts. Both of these teams also did play back in, I believe, was Week 3 when the Panthers won 30-0. Both of these teams are some of the most confusing teams in the entire NFL. I'm going to take the Falcons in this one. This matchup could go the complete opposite of what I think it's going to go, and I wouldn't be surprised. I just think that Michael Penix with Drake London, I think their connection has been really good. I think that their offense is going to click once again, and I think Bijan is due for another explosive game similar to what he did against Buffalo. And I just don't trust Bryce Young, man. Like, both quarterbacks are very inconsistent, but Bryce Young, he's just like, he makes some of these back-breaking mistakes, and he has some of the worst decisions that you can ever see him make. And I just don't really trust them. And Atlanta has the defense, in my opinion, capable of forcing Bryce Young to make these mistakes. We saw what they did to Josh Allen back in like week 5 or back in week 7 or something like that. I think Bryce Young's going to have multiple turnovers, and I think that the Falcons offense is going to take advantage. Key players, it is Bryce Young for the Carolina Panthers because, I mean, you can have a turnover. We saw him have an interception against the Packers, and they still won, but you just can't have it at the most inopportune time. If you can just get it out of the way early or just make it so when you're already up, you turn the ball over, then maybe they can salvage a win. Meanwhile, for the Falcons, I think it's Drake London just because we saw him in the past 2 weeks when he played really well. Michael Penix had some of the better games that we've seen him have this season. So I think if him and Michael Penix can have that connection, then maybe we'll see Penix turn into a more above average quarterback. I think Atlanta evens the division series up. And now we got an NFC North matchup between the Bears and the Vikings. The Bears beat the Giants in the fourth quarter after being down 10. Meanwhile, the Vikings, they lost at home to the Baltimore Ravens. These two teams also faced off in week 1, in which Minnesota won 27-24. Are they going to sweep the division? In my opinion, no. I think the Bears are going to take care of this one. Just because I don't trust J.J. McCarthy enough. 9, quote-unquote, has not played well this entire season. He's had around 4 different quarters of good play in what is now 4 complete games that he's played. And he just hasn't been good. I think the fact that Justin Jefferson is not looking like his elite self under J.J. McCarthy, that's very alarming. Jordan Addison hasn't really done much. He needs to take advantage of those weapons. Meanwhile, I think that the Bears offense has a lot more momentum on its side, and I think that they can do a good job on the Brian Flores defense. The key players, for me, it's Colston Loveland because I think they're starting to get more involved into the offense. And if they just feed him a bunch of targets and he doesn't catch a bunch of them, then the offense is just going to be out of sync. But if he's able to catch all those targets, have some good runs, similar to what he did against Cincinnati, then I think the Bears offense is going to look really good. Meanwhile, it is J.J. McCarthy for the Vikings because we know that defense can force Caleb Williams and the Bears offense to make some mistakes. Maybe the Bears offense isn't as explosive. But if J.J. McCarthy doesn't answer the call and starts being inaccurate, takes sacks, and turns the ball over, then it's not going to matter and Minnesota's going to drop the game. In my opinion, that's what's going to happen, and I think the Bears level the series in the division. Now we got the Chargers visiting the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Chargers, they won on Sunday night against the Steelers. Meanwhile, the Jaguars, they choked a 19-point fourth quarter lead last week against Houston. Both of these teams are very battered. Both of these teams have their ups and downs, but I think LA is going to win this one pretty easily. The Jaguars defense, they were able to force a lot of turnovers in the beginning of the season, but apart from that, they have been incredibly average. They're not as great. I mean, they're pretty good at getting to the quarterback, and while I do think that they'll be able to hit and sack Herbert a lot, I think Herbert is going to make the plays with his arm and with his legs with the very little time that he has to make the plays. And it just boils down to me trusting Herbert a hell of a lot more than I trust Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has not been good enough. And under the Chargers defense that's been playing a lot better lately, I don't think Trevor's going to have a very good game. And I think that the Chargers win this one relatively comfortably. For the key players, it is a offensive line versus defensive line because if Justin Herbert just has absolutely no time and there's a man in his face as soon as he gets the ball to throw, then you're not going to win because no quarterback under a terrible offensive line is going to play well if they're just under duress the entire time. See Mahomes in Super Bowl 55 and Super Bowl 59. If the Jaguars can force some sacks and just force some turnovers, that's the key thing. Force Justin Herbert to give them short fields, then maybe they'll have a chance to pull off the upset. But personally, I don't see it, and I think that the Jaguars' free fall only continues. Now we got one of the better matchups of this week. We got the Buccaneers visiting the Buffalo Bills. The Buccaneers, they lost to the Bills' division rival in the New England Patriots. Meanwhile, the Bills, they also lost to a division rival in the Miami Dolphins. Both of these teams, I think both of them are facing each other at a time where both of them need to get right ASAP. And personally, this pick could bite me back, but I'm going to take Buffalo. I just think that they'll be more pissed off. It's at home, and I think that I trust them to win at home. I think they'll be motivated. I think the crowd's going to back them up. I think I trust Josh Allen slightly more than I trust Baker Mayfield. And overall, I think that the way you beat the Bills is you just gash them on the run, and I don't think that the Bucs have that personnel. Even though they do have the personnel to stop the Bills' rushing attack, which is one of their biggest strengths, I think if it boils down to a quarterback duel, again, I trust Josh Allen more than I trust Baker Mayfield. The key players, I think it's a battle of the running backs because I think whoever backs up the quarterback more, I think that team is going to win. Because if James Cook, if he just gets walled off completely and doesn't do anything against that Tampa Bay wall that is their run defense, then I think the Bills are going to have a really hard time. Meanwhile, if Rachaad White, if he can't get anything going and Baker Mayfield is just forced to throw and throw and throw to all these like injured receivers, then I think Buffalo is going to have an easier time of defending that. But if Rachaad White or James Cook can just gash that defensive line, then I think the other quarterback is going to play better. I think that James Cook is going to play better, and I think Buffalo is going to get a bounce back win. Now we got the Bengals visiting the Pittsburgh Steelers. We got a lot of division matchups this week. The Bengals, they were on the bye, but the last time we saw them, they collapsed in horrific fashion to the Chicago Bears. Meanwhile, the Steelers, they also lost on Sunday night against the Los Angeles Chargers. There's also the Unkable Part 2, as we saw Cincinnati beat them on around Week 8, I believe it was, on Thursday night with a Joe Flacco masterclass. Is it going to repeat itself? In my opinion, all these division series are going to get even, and I think it's going to be the same thing. I think the Steelers are going to win. Just because the Bengals defense is just so horrid. They allowed 39 and 42 points to the Jets and Bears, respectively. And after making some trades, I think they made like one trade in the deadline, they didn't improve at all. They probably maybe even got worse after letting go of Logan Wilson. And I don't really know how much Joe Flacco can keep up this pace. And while, Aaron Rodgers did look hella old last week, I think I just trust him more, especially with it being in Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh rarely gets swept by division rivals. So I just see Pittsburgh winning this one. And like it's probably going to be another shootout. I expect both of these teams to put up 30. Overall, I just think Aaron Rodgers is going to be more clutch down the stretch because I think the defense of the Steelers is due for a half-decent performance again. The key players, I think it is Aaron Rodgers for the Steelers because if it becomes a trend in which he just looks incredibly old like he did against the Chargers and it's not just a fluke, then this could be the beginning of the end of the Aaron Rodgers era in the NFL. This could be his last season. Meanwhile, for the Bengals, it's their defense, not in the sense that I want them to lock the Steelers down, but like, can you get one stop? Can you get one turnover? Can you force one punt? Can you just not be an absolute turnstile? That's literally all that Joe Flacco needs. So, Bengals, you better answer the call for the sake of Joe Flacco. Now we got the 49ers visiting the Arizona Cardinals. The 49ers are coming off a loss to the Los Angeles Rams. Meanwhile, the Cardinals, they lost to the Seahawks. I'll be referencing both of those teams later today. I'm going to try and keep this one brief. I think the 49ers are going to win. It's just like they're the better team. I know it's in Arizona. I believe they also won back in week 3. The 49ers did in San Francisco. And it's just like, bless his soul, Jacoby Brissett, but I don't think he's going to play well enough. He's going to play well. I think him and Trey McBride are pretty good, but they're just not going to do enough to outgun Kyle Shanahan's offense, which has been really good. I don't know if Purdy or McCorkle are going to play, but either one of them, I think they can put up 30 easily, and I think this game is going to be over probably by halftime. The key players, it is Christian McCaffrey because we saw that when he can run all over teams like he has like in this later stretch of the season, he's just one of the most unstoppable players in the NFL. And him being such a good receiver now, like it just adds so many dimensions. So it's just going to be really hard for Arizona to stop him. Meanwhile, if Jacoby Brissett, if he puts up a performance like he did in like the second half or in garbage time against Seattle or what he did against the Cowboys, then maybe they'll have a chance. But overall, I just think the Niners, they bounce back after their loss with another division victory. And now this is the game of the year. This is a game of the year candidate right here. We got the Seahawks going up against the Los Angeles Rams. The Seahawks are coming off of absolutely demolishing the Cardinals. Meanwhile, the Rams, they thoroughly dominated the 49ers. It's a parallel of the last matchup. Both of these teams are incredibly good. I think both these teams are arguably the two best teams in the NFC and maybe even the NFL. I apologize to Seattle. They proved me wrong already. Like, all of them proved me wrong. I predicted them to be a bad team, and now they're a really good team. With that being said, I'm going to pick the Rams, just because I trust them to execute down the stretch more due to their experience. I trust Stafford more than Darnold. I trust McVay more than McDonald. And I think that they have the defensive players with Jared Verse, with Byron Young, to make Sam Darnold uncomfortable and force him to make a mistake. And I think Sam Darnold is more prone to make a mistake than Stafford is, and I think that's going to be the difference. I think one person's going to turn the ball over, and then the other one is going to take advantage of that and roll away with a victory, and I think that that's going to be the Rams. Although I do expect this game to be incredibly close. This is a quarterback matchup. Let's not sugarcoat it. Similar to Mahomes and Allen back in Week 9, whoever plays better between these two is going to win. And overall, I just trust Stafford, who for me is the MVP of this season. I think that he's going to show up and prove why he deserves to be first place in the MVP discussion. Although I do think Sam Darnold's going to have a good game. I don't think there's going to be a blowout. I expect this game to be incredibly close. And now we got the Chiefs against the Broncos. The Chiefs were on the bye, but the last time we saw them, they lost to the Buffalo Bills. Meanwhile, the Broncos, they won, although it felt more like a loss after a Thursday night victory against the Raiders. As much as I want to pick Denver as a man who despises the Chiefs, I can't in my heart of hearts. I'm going to take Kansas City in this one. I expect this game to be very low scoring. I think that the defense of Denver is going to do a really good job of neutralizing Mahomes to an extent in which I don't think they're going to score like 30. I think they're going to get a lot of sacks. They might even pick him off once or twice. But it borders down to I don't trust Bo Nix. Bo Nix did not impress me at all on Thursday night. That was one of the few times where I watched him fully, and he just looked bad. And I don't trust him to dice up Spags' defense when he couldn't even beat up the Raiders' defense. Trevor Lawrence even played well against the Raiders' defense, and you couldn't? Like, that's just embarrassing. I know it's in Denver. I know Denver's defense is so good, and it would have to pull off a historic performance, in my opinion. But I just don't think Bo Nix is going to be able to back them up enough. The key players, I think it's the offensive line for the Chiefs, because we saw that when Mahomes is under duress the entire time, like he was against Buffalo and obviously against Philly last year, Mahomes just looks very uncomfortable, and he isn't able to get his game off. They need to give him enough time to get his game off, and they need him to not get hit as much as he did against Buffalo, because that Mahomes was terrible. Meanwhile, for the Broncos, it's Bo Nix. Like, you don't have to look like Tom Brady to beat the Chiefs this season. Can you just be a competent game manager, let the run game do its talking, let the defense do its thing, and just don't make backbreaking mistakes? I want to believe that Bo Nix can do that, but unfortunately, I don't, and I think the Chiefs, they improved to 6-4. Now we got the Ravens visiting the Cleveland Browns. The Ravens, they're coming off a win against Minnesota. Meanwhile, the Browns, they're coming off a loss against the New York Jets. Keep this one very simple. I think the Ravens win this one pretty easily. I'm not even going to say that much. It just boils down to the fact that I trust Lamar Jackson more than Dylan Gabriel, and that's literally everything I need to say. Key players, it's Lamar Jackson, because if he just plays like his efficient self, like he's been, even in a quote-unquote down game against Minnesota, he still played incredible. Like, I still think he was very good. He's one of the best quarterbacks that we've ever seen. I think he'll be great again. Meanwhile, Myles Garrett, he needs to be like a game wrecker. He needs to have around like 7 sacks. I know it's very unrealistic, but to be honest, for me, that's the only chance that the Browns have. Nothing much to say. I think Baltimore thoroughly beats them. I personally don't see Cleveland winning. And now we got a much better game for Sunday Night Football. We got the Lions visiting the Philadelphia Eagles. Detroit is coming off a dominating win against the Commanders. Meanwhile, Philly, they won in a grudge match, a boring fest against the Green Bay Packers on Monday night. Both of these teams, apart from Seattle and the Rams, these two teams are probably the two best teams in the NFC. Very hard matchup, and this might just be my own personal bias because I personally prefer Philly over Detroit. I'm going to pick Philly. Philly's a really, really good team, especially at home against the NFC. Very niche stat, but the last time that Philly lost a home game to an NFC team was week 2 of last year. Since then, they haven't lost. They're really, really good. I think that their offense is going to play a lot better. I expect the receivers to play better. And I think that the defense is capable of making enough stops against Jared Goff and that offense. And it could be a shootout, but at the same time, I expect this game to be kind of ugly. And I think that Philly thrives more if the game becomes ugly. The key players, I think, is Jared Goff, because when the Lions are clicking and he's only forced to be a game manager, then they put up 40 with ease. But I think once he's forced to make some really, really tough throws, not that he can't, but I think that the Lions' offense is severely held back. I think if he makes early good decisions, then I think the Lions' offense is going to click for the rest of the game. Meanwhile, for the Eagles, I think it's the receiver duo, because when they clicked in Minnesota and against the Giants, then the Philly offense did everything. Like, they scored at will. Like, they were really good. Jalen Hurts looked incredible. So I think both of them need to play really well, and I think that'll also unlock the running game. I think that'll unlock Jalen Hurts and his legs. And overall, I think that this is going to happen, and I think that Philly gets a massive proving win in the NFC. And ending the week, we got the Cowboys at the Las Vegas Raiders. That's kind of a Monday night stinker, I'm not going to lie. The Cowboys, they were on the bye, but the last time we saw them, they lost to the Cardinals. Meanwhile, the Raiders, they lost on Thursday night in a stinker to the Denver Broncos. Both of these teams are what you would call bad, but the Cowboys, I think, will be less sucky, and I think that they're going to win. Dak Prescott, I think, is still playing at a very high level, even though he's tailed off a little bit with some performance against the Broncos and the Cardinals. I just think he'll bounce back very well. The Raiders' defense is not good. I think he'll be able to card them up with CeeDee Lamb and, George Pickens. I think Javonte's going to have a decent game. And overall, I think the Raiders, their offense is just not very good. I think they'll put up some points against the Dallas defense, but I think even the Dallas defense, with their new addition of Quinton Williams, is going to make enough stops for Dak to finally have a comfortable victory. But the key players, it is Dak, because if he starts not playing well and we see more of what we saw against Arizona, then that's truly panic time for Dallas, because now they'll have a not automatic offense while also having a bad defense. But if he just keeps playing like he's been playing for most of the season, then I think they'll score 30 at will. Meanwhile, for the Raiders, it is Brock Bowers, because if the two times that Geno Smith has actually played like a competent quarterback was week 1 and against Jacksonville. And that was the 2 games where Brock Bowers looked like the best tight end, one of the best tight ends in NFL history. So if he plays good, Geno plays good, and they have a better chance of winning. But I'm not going to lie, even if he plays well, I don't see the Raiders winning. And also, one more note, I do think that the Cowboys will be hungry for this victory after what happened during the bye week of losing their teammate. So I think that mental aspect is a big factor, and I think that they're going to carry that, and I think they'll definitely want to win it more, and I do think that they will get this victory. But that is the end of Week 11. We got 14 very exciting games that could potentially shake up the entire NFL playoff picture. I think this week is going to be a large indication about where each team ends up by January. But if you enjoyed this video, please like and please subscribe, as any support is truly appreciated. And I'll see you guys in a couple of days at the end of Week 11.